Hi, I'm Gary Cohen, CEO of Cova Software. Today I'm joining you from Denver, Colorado. The topic that we're going to discuss is something that we've learned in dealing with hundreds of dispensaries around North America, and that is where they might be leaving money on the ground. And we found that the more consulting we do with them, in the more stores we launch, we find more and more ways for them to optimize their revenue. So that's what we're going to share today is some tips or techniques that different dispensaries around the US and Canada are doing to capture more of their opportunities. Well, just a quick word. I'm not going to do a big pitch about Cova, but other than to say that we're a point of sale company. And we come out of a bigger point of sale company that was in the wireless industry for 22 years and started building Cova over 4 years ago, specifically for the cannabis industry. And in that time, we've grown very, very fast and have a lot of great customers. And that's really where a lot of this information stems from. Well, what we'll talk about today when we're discussing increasing your bottom line is going to be, how do you bring in new and repeat customers? How do you maximize, I shouldn't read it, but I'm going to anyway. How do you maximize the basket size? And then lastly, where in operational efficiencies can you do a better job of both increasing your top line and maximizing your profits by minimizing your expenses? Well, there's going to be 10 different tips we're going to give. We'll start off with the first one, which is a very easy one, but it's critical. Are you keeping up to date with your online presence and doing the right things through your Google positioning, all of the different reference sites like Yelp, that you could possibly increase your visibility to prospective customers? We like Google Business because if you use those tools, you can get a lot of analytics and data about how people are finding you and actually what that conversion rate is to actually looking at your site, how much time they spend, and whether they actually pull up the map to see how to get there. There's a lot of different ways for people to find you. And a good tip that we always give our clients is think about the customer journey. That customer journey starts with search. So assuming they didn't just drive by your store and see it, how do they find you? And we found that by working into your online presence, things like the words dispensary near me, or cannabis store near me, or marijuana deals. I think some examples that we've seen look like this, where working those types of terms or search words into your site will lead customers over to places like Leafly, Pot Guide, Weed Maps, etc. In addition to what you can do directly with those sites. And that pretty much goes to your marketing budget. Here's one about marijuana deals near me. Again, the power of search is really good and powerful, but you need to incorporate certain terms into your on-site, the words that you put into the website itself that describes your store. The next section is about hosting events and workshops. And why this is so important is that, as you all know, we're in a new industry. And that, it seems like it's getting old, but this is in marijuana years. So my 4 years seems like about 25 years. And everything moves pretty fast. But to the outside world, this is a very new industry. And because it's so new, the more education you can do, the better. And when we talk about places with new markets like Missouri or Maine is going from medical to recreational, places like that, the majority of the citizens of that state have never stepped foot in a dispensary. So they really don't know what goes on behind those opaque windows, or, you can't just peek into a dispensary. That's usually regulated away. So the more ways that you can educate your local community about cannabis, ways to use cannabis, inviting people into your store to understand what the different offerings are and the level of expertise your staff can help provide, that's all huge to lowering the barriers to pulling people into your store. As you can see from this slide, there's several things you can do. We find that in a brand new market, the more open seminars where you can get people to come and learn is invaluable. Another tip I'll give everyone is when you're opening your dispensary, you have to follow all of the local regulations for cannabis or marijuana retail. And in doing so, you pretty much become an expert on how you build your store out to be compliant and what all the things you're going to do to create a safe zone to do the transactions of your cannabis products and keep it safe and away from kids. Well, you know that you're taking all these steps, but for you to go reach out to the community and share all the things you're doing, from security, reporting, compliance, just the layout of your store, the way that, depending on the jurisdiction, you might not be able to let people get to where the cannabis actually is in the store until their ID's been verified or their medical recommendation's been verified, things like that. So when you share it with everyone, you lower that resistance to doing business with you. You see that little tile about Doctor's Day for patients and seniors. I've seen more markets where new dispensaries go submit flyers or put up flyers and even go to senior centers and say, look, there's solutions out there that you might not even have known about. Why don't you come on in and check us out? One of our clients, Dosist, is really good at coming up with ways to pull the community into their stores. I think that's a picture of the Los Angeles, I think it's in Venice Beach, and I've been there. And about 3 times a week, they have some event going on that pulls people in to do, yoga or some sort of educational program. But it's definitely cemented their place in the community. When we talk about boosting brand awareness and managing your reputation, there's a bunch of things you can do. One is, we were talking about your site. One of the greatest things you can do is get positive reviews, and not just positive reviews, but fans. And I know a lot of dispensaries don't have the budget or the know-how to have a complete social media or social networking presence, and to choreograph it, manage it, in a real strategic way. But what you can't, there's simple things you can do, like get your customers to give you positive reviews. And as we all know, if you're looking for a restaurant and all the reviews are horrible, there's so many other restaurants, why don't I just go to one that has good reviews? Well, dispensaries are no different. And you can manage that persona that you have. You don't have to have people lie, but what you need is fans to go on there and talk about what makes your dispensary unique or better. And you can, give people a reason to do it. You could tell people, if you'll do it, when you come back in, show us your review and we'll give you 15% off. And believe me, people will do it. You could also put that on your receipt, and they can post their review and then use that receipt as a mechanism to validate that they've done it and give them some benefit down the road. Well, I think PR is an amazing thing you can do. You don't need a PR agency. What you need is a story. And think about what your dispensary is about, or an accomplishment you've had, or even if it's, I'll harp on that educational aspect. The media needs content, and local media needs content even more. The fact that you're a new dispensary, you're engaged in the community, you're dedicated to legitimizing cannabis and in the sale of it, and you do it in a very compliant manner, is the essence of a great story. The rest, most of the world doesn't really know what goes on in the cannabis industry. And usually your local news and media will pick up on something that is topical, which this is, and relevant. So think about how to do it. Like the note says, if you hire a PR agency, it's expensive. But to just reach out to local press is not expensive, and it's easy to do. You can share your story in a lot of ways. You can either line up an interview or a podcast. If you want to do a case study, or like we're always writing white papers. Either way, you're documenting what that added value is that you're trying to deliver to people, and it can get picked up. Lastly, you could do webinars, and it's something we've done. They're pretty successful. This next section, offer the right promo at the right time. Well, we're in an industry that is very, very promotion heavy, probably more so than any industry I've ever seen. If you're in a brand new market with limited supply, meaning you have limited distribution, places like Ontario, Illinois, where there's only so many places you can go to buy recreational cannabis, you probably don't need to do a whole lot of promotion. You don't need, because any discount you're giving is your profit. But if you're in a competitive market like Colorado, California, you'd be surprised at how many promotions there are in a given week. It could be at the category level, it could be at the product level, time of day, day of week. It could be segmented. It could be for seniors. It could be for veterans, on and on. One of the things we're trying to say here is one of the wise tips that we could pass along is do a promotion where it's going to enhance a relatively slow period. So if you're always slow from 10 o'clock to 11:30 or from 2 to 4, maybe those are your happy hours. And, normally you wouldn't pull, maybe you could pull someone who normally wouldn't show up during that time. And then use your ability to do outreach, which is CRM, customer relationship management, have those tools available to let them know what's coming up and what's available from a promotional standpoint. Expanding sales channels. Well, COVID kind of woke up the industry to thinking beyond just the four walls of your dispensary. Some jurisdictions didn't even allow customers to come into a store. So the only way you could transact was at curbside or through delivery. We find that in more mature markets where people know what they want to buy, there's more of a use of online because they've already been to many stores or your store many times. They know what they like. or what they want to purchase. And buying online or placing that order online, is kind of easy because it's a very clear decision. If you're in a new market or you're a brand new store, you want people coming in and you want to make that in-store experience great. And over time, introduce people to, now that you know us and like us, there's other methods that we can help fulfill your shopping experience. Well, I was just talking about the retail experience. And a lot of times, some of our clients or some dispensaries forget that they're a retailer. And, first and foremost, what's the retail experience? A lot of times I'll talk about all the different types of cannabis retailers. Some are volume. Some are the opposite. They're all about education. And most are somewhere in between. But regardless, they're all retail. And one of the cornerstones of retail is merchandising. What do you guys have for sale? And how can I see it, experience it? And in this session that we're talking about, how do you optimize that? Well, I think a couple of the ways you can do it is, where do you position product relative to the customer flow through your store? And as we all know, they put the milk in the back of the grocery store. They want to pull you through all the aisles for the things you buy the most. In a dispensary, how do you position the products that you want to sell into the visibility of the customers? So think through your displays, your shelving, where you place products. And if you have things that are impulse buys, like lighters, well, pack them around where they pay. Do you need a lighter? It's right there. I think that merchandising around the holidays, and when you think about most retailers, whether it's, they're always thinking about what's that next event that we can market and promote around. Seasonality is huge because cannabis consumption is seasonal. It's bigger in the warm months. It's a little bit lighter in the winter months or the colder months. Naturally, if you're in Southern California, that doesn't matter as much. If you're in the Midwest, it's got much more seasonality. So think about that. And then how do you merchandise and position your products relative to seasonality? And believe it or not, cannabis lends itself to that. So I look at markets where you can buy consumables, edibles and drinks. And, we have a lot of cannabis drinks that need to be refrigerated. Well, doesn't it kind of make sense to get those refrigerated drink products closer to the front of the store in the summertime versus in the back of the store in the summertime where nobody might see them? Almost all states prohibit selling food or drinks that aren't cannabis in the store. But we found there's really no prohibition for giving away hot chocolate or coffee. Well, there's a lot of cannabis products that go really well with coffee or hot chocolate in the winter. So whether it's tinctures to throw into the hot chocolate or brownies and edibles to go with your coffee, things, when you start making those connections within the store, or especially outside of the store, if you've got to have people queue up outside during the whole COVID thing, handing out hot chocolate up and down the sidewalk can do nothing but increase your basket size. Upselling. Well, the biggest tips for upselling is to be genuine. there's nothing worse than going in to buy, a $20 product and someone tries to upsell you on a $50 something else. You kind of look at them like, are you crazy? But if it's complementary products, that makes sense. One of the things that I'd suggest is study what your customers buy. And even if you do this manually and look at people who buy this, also buy that. And then work with your salespeople or your bud tenders on, here's some natural complementary upsells. I always like to tell the story about going to Las Vegas. And I was really, really surprised that in all the dispensaries I went to, hardly any sold pre-rolls or joints. And if they did, they were astronomically expensive, in gold, rolling papers, stuff like that. And I thought, wow, this is really weird. You can't really buy small quantities of cannabis. And what they had done in dispensary after dispensary was, because 90% of their customers are tourists, and most of them never bought cannabis in a store before. They want you to get, and it's Las Vegas, so they're really smart about everything. So you could buy a minimum of a gram, but then you probably are going to need papers or a pipe, and you're going to need a lighter. So no one walks out of the store for less than $25. It's just so clever. But again, they're just building that bundle or that upsell capability into the way they do business. Another thing you can think about is creating bundles. And bundles around seasonality are an awesome upsell opportunity. So if it's, I think about Ontario, where outside of Toronto, from really May till September, everyone leaves the city at the weekend, and there's all these dispensaries on the way to the lakes and cabins and vacation homes. And the cannabis retailers know that people are going to stop at their stores on the way up to that destination, because it's probably going to be a better deal than when you get to some tiny little resort town, and it'll be more expensive. So almost all the ones I visited had some sort of weekend basket that had a whole array of cannabis products all bundled together at the satisfying price of $85. Well, you buy that basket, you just spent $85, and you might have been going in there to spend $30. So that's a good thing to do. Number 8, offer gift cards. Well, it's something that we offer. It might be pretty unique, in the cannabis space and for a POS company. But we introduced this a year ago, and it's been a pretty big hit. As we're entering into the holiday season right now, gift cards are a way to, like it says, it's an impulse buy sometimes. But almost every time someone uses a gift card in a dispensary, they reach in their pocket and spend even more. So if they have a $50 gift card, they usually fill their basket with more. It says right here, $59. What I think is the greatest thing about a gift card is when someone gives it as a gift, which usually means that person receiving the gift card is now going to come into your store and spend it. And that's a new customer. The other thing about gift cards is, in our category, I really don't know what my buddy likes to buy. So I don't know if I should just, buy him some product, whether he'll like it. It's the kind he likes. It's what he really likes. And a gift card kind of gives that decision making over to the receiver. So that's been a way to boost revenues within the store as an extra capability to pull incremental business and incremental customers. Well, the next area is methods for payment. So when we look at the US versus Canada, Canada, you can accept credit cards. The US, we really can't. Which means if you can accept credit cards, we can actually consummate an online order online by taking the payment. And what does that mean? Well, it significantly changes the dynamics of canceled orders or people placing an order online and then never coming in the store to pick it up. So by gaining that payment commitment, it's huge. When you think about the US, where we have capabilities to take debit in many states, and depending on who your POS provider is, it increases the overall purchasing. We know that whenever somebody, it says right here, 15% more revenue than a cash transaction. I've heard numbers even higher. If you think about the legacy of our industry, where there was always an ATM in a dispensary, you have a huge ATM fee. But then if I only take out $50 or $75, that's all I can spend. So if you ever wonder, why does that number go up if people have the ability to use plastic? It's because they have no limit on their capability to purchase. But as soon as I only have X amount in my pocket, that's really all I can spend. Well, this last section, to me, is we save the best for last. And that is, be a better buyer. So I've seen no area of cannabis that is less sophisticated than procurement, cannabis procurement. And it's of no fault. It's no one's fault. We're a young industry. We have a lot of retailers who've never actually been a retailer before. And even if they had, the supply chain in cannabis isn't that sophisticated. So when you think about grocery stores or drug stores or liquor stores, there's a well-established way to check inventory levels, reorder, and optimize your purchase. The ways that the suppliers and the buyers interact has been established over decades. We don't have that. When I think about all the dispensaries I've been in, where I ask the question, how do you order? And they say, well, I send the guy a text. I need 2 pounds of this and 1 pound of that. And the guy either says, yeah, I got it, I'll see you Tuesday, or he just shows up on Tuesday. It's kind of crazy, that you're going to have the cash to pay him when he shows up on Tuesday, and you don't know whether he's going to bring 2 pounds or he's going to bring a half a pound. Well, we're going to talk about buying in more detail. But one of the points that I think is worth noting is too many options are never a good thing. So if I go into a dispensary, it's very rare that people love the dispensary that has 3,000 SKUs, because it's just confusing. I think the other issue, and this goes more to like gray market California, I went into so many stores that had 2,000 to 3,000 SKUs, and a third of them are expired. They've got product that's been there for a year and a half, and it's hard to manage that many different cannabis products. in different form factors and different cost levels, etc. So too many options are never a good thing. The best thing you can do is optimize your buying so that the things that are in your store are the things people want to buy. And the better you are at meeting the needs of your particular clientele, the better your profits are, because you don't have waste. You're not sinking your money into things that don't turn over. And how do you do that? Well, there's really only one way to do it, and that's through reporting. And if you don't have reporting that helps you understand your real profitability, then how do you make good decisions on what to have? I pulled this data from one of our California retailers. And what I was trying to do is see how much, sour diesel they have in their store. And why do you have 3 different brands of sour diesel? I just wonder, of the Claiborne and the cream of the crop compared to the amplified farms, maybe giving everyone that many choices, isn't helping you. And when you look at the profitability, 62% gross margin, maybe we focus on amplified farms. We make the most money. It seems that the customers have voted with their wallet. They've said what they really like. And, maybe I can even buy from amplified farms if they're my exclusive provider of sour diesel. I can get my costs down. It's obvious people will pay $59. So that improves my profitability. I did the same looking at vape pens. And what I was trying to figure out is, do we need all these different Blue Dreams? Whether it's in the cartridge form or, I think these are all cartridges. Anyhow, what you want to do is look at your volume, look at your gross profit and your margin, and then how does this contribute to our overall sales? So you can study things by category and then down at the product level, and then buy more effectively. One of the things I don't see a lot of dispensaries do is really negotiate. And if you have this information and the ability to talk to your supplier and say, look, we love your product, or your product's not doing real well. Let's say your product's not doing real well. I got to move this stuff. I'm sitting on 200 cartridges that haven't gone anywhere. What can we do about that? But you need the information to have that conversation and work with them. Anything you can do to either get rebates on what you currently have or get a discount on your next purchase. Or lastly, you just stop buying from them because it's just not, the demand isn't there, or there's other things that make you more money. Gives you that leverage to figure out how do you get the best price for yourself. I think this one was a gummies one where I was looking for fruity gummies to see how they sold. People really like that watermelon lemonade. And the margins are good, the price is good. I learned something there. And I learned that the luscious lemon, people aren't that wild about. Which takes me back to, do you have visibility into what's happening and what's working in your store? So this is just a view of one of the ways that we provide reporting to our customers. This is a dashboard where you can build whichever tile or set of data you want to look at in a regular cadence. And it just keeps updating in real time. But having access to information and data is the greatest way for you to manage your product, what you buy, how much you buy, when you buy it, how much you pay for it, and data. I'm such a data geek, but honestly, by having that, you can make better decisions, and those decisions will increase your profitability. Well, those are the 10 things that we had to help you get more revenue out of your store. If you have more questions, reach out to us. We're happy to help. And thanks for joining this webinar.